is MAgashule to read our press briefing to you. We also are joined by the chairpersons of the relevant subcommittees, which were key in the formulation of some of the decisions of the Lekgotla. And some of these decisions of the Lekgotla are decisions that are part of the program of action of the ANC for 2019. So we'll give over to the SGE. Once the SGE has completed our statement, we'll then allow clarity-seeking questions relevant to the statement from all of you. What you just need to do is to identify yourself and the media outlet where you come from. Then you can ask your questions. Over to you, SG.
No, thanks very much. Let me say good afternoon to the media. Thanks, Comrade Lekgotla. Without any waste of time, let me greet viewers out there and read a statement after the ANC National Executive Committee as well as the ANC Lekgotla, where the alliance partners, the leagues, and different people from different sectors and stakeholders were present. Our statement reads as: the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress met in its annual Lekgotla, that is from the 20th to the 21st of January. And you know that Lekgotlas are gatherings of the ANC, NEC, alliance partners and deployed cadres in various spheres of society to monitor progress with implementation of our program of social transformation. The January 2019 Lekgotla took place as the mandate of the 5th administrations comes to an end and the holding of national and provincial general elections in May would be taking place. It also takes place as we prepare to celebrate the 25th anniversary of our democracy on 27 April this year, the year of freedom. The ANC Lekgotla noted the successful launch of the ANC elections campaign and manifesto in Durban on the 12th of January 2019 and celebrated 107 years since the birth of the ANC, and we declared 2019 as the year of united action to grow South Africa. The Lekgotla concentrated on key issues that affect the country and the people and how we are performing in each of these areas as we work together to grow South Africa. This Lekgotla reaffirmed that an inclusive economy is the top priority of our manifesto, as 2018 saw 1/4 of a technical recession, the devastating impact of fuel prices and VAT increases on the population, especially the poor, despite mitigating interventions and the debilitating effects of the high levels of unemployment, especially on young people. In all areas, including education, water, sanitation, health, housing, social security, infrastructure development, workers' rights, we made progress and lived up to our commitments in the 2014 manifesto. At the same time, as our 2019 manifesto kicks in, we acknowledge, I quote, that we could have moved faster and the quality of service could have been much better. We accept that mistakes have been made and in some critical areas, progress has stalled, close quote. That's what we said in our manifesto 2019. The Lekgotla also discussed the ongoing and startling allegations at the Zondo Commission, and the ANC will once more want to reiterate its support for the work of the Commission and again call on all members of society and all citizens and ANC members, anybody with information, to avail themselves to the Commission to assist with its work, as this Commission was actually set up at the initiation by the ANC. The Commission, by virtue of its mandate, will deal with difficult matters, but this is inevitable if we want to unearth the truth. The Commission, in the nature of its work, must hear all sides, so that when it makes its final determination, it will be a just, thorough and fair outcome that takes the country forward. And the ANC maintains its position that it will not be giving running commentary on the work of the Commission, but will make submissions at appropriate times. The NEC, the National Executive Committee, once more at the Lekgotla affirmed the commitment made in the 2019 manifesto, and I quote, that we learn the harsh impact of corruption on society and the economy. We have learned hard lessons about the vigilance needed to stop lawlessness, greed and selfishness taking root. We are resolved to work with our people to address this cancer in society. And you know, indeed, this is the People's Manifesto because we consulted throughout the country, in villages, in towns, in cities, all over South Africa, a People's Manifesto to grow South Africa, but to grow it together with our people. The Lekgotla resolved that together with the people of South Africa, the ANC is ready to write the next chapter in our country's history. The Lekgotla in commissions therefore focus on the following issues. I will highlight some of them. Transformation of the economy to serve our people, health and education, peace and security, with a focus on building safer communities, gender-based violence and preventing crime, strengthening governance, fighting corruption, and turning around local government and governance in general, social cohesion, nation building, and comprehensive social security. And lastly, building a better Africa and promoting global cooperation, peace, and multilateralism. In all these areas, as a governing alliance, the ANC recommits itself to work with communities to address problems of service delivery, including the challenges faced by the health system, strengthening the provision of quality education, unblock issues and intervene in order to address the water and sanitation challenges faced by communities. As you are aware that we are facing situations in other areas because of drought. On the economy, the ANC Lekgotla received reports on work in progress on the decisions of the Jobs and Investment Summits, as well as the economic recovery package announced by the President last year. And the 2019 manifesto builds on this work with emphasis on more jobs and decent jobs, broadening ownership, sustainable land reform, addressing excessive economic concentration, investment, industrial strategy, the digital revolution, small enterprises and cooperatives, township and village economy, and diversification of the financial sector, and a macroeconomic framework in support of the manifesto commitments. Lekgotla emphasizes our call for data to fall, to enable citizens and businesses, especially young innovators and entrepreneurs, to participate and lead in the digital revolution. The Lekgotla reaffirmed the independence of South African Reserve Bank as set out in the Constitution as a national asset that is critical to meeting our national objectives, including public ownership of the bank. The South African Reserve Bank must pursue flexible monetary policy regime and without sacrificing price stability, must ensure that monetary policies take into account the other objectives such as employment creation and economic growth. On sustainable and radical land reform and agriculture, the Lekgotla took note of work in progress, including processes started in 2018 on the constitutional amendment to Section 25, the expropriation bill, speeding up outstanding land resolution claims, the package of agricultural support, and land to small-scale and emerging farmers as part of the economic recovery package, tenure security, and advancing women's access to land and participation in agriculture and rural economies. The Lekgotla reaffirmed education, health, and skills as critical to economic development and sustainable growth, and the country needs a healthy and skilled workforce for a productive economy and active citizenship. Education and health must remain apex priorities and must be considered as an investment and not a consumption from an economic perspective. The Lekgotla agreed that we will ask government to fast-track social infrastructure, particularly schools, clinics, water and sanitation reticulation, and the construction maintenance community assets. The ANC will mobilize and organize communities to take ownership of all public assets such as schools, libraries, and clinics as the first line of defense, with government implementing an integrated plan to ensure safety at schools, clinics, hospitals, colleges, and universities. We once more commit in the coming term to turn South Africa into a construction site. I think the President has emphasized this one. Building national, provincial, rural, and urban roads, dams, sewerage, and water plants, and other economic infrastructure. And infrastructure will also support our industrial and localization plans, as well as the skills revolution and a mass apprenticeship program. The manifesto committed to make early childhood development compulsory this year. And the Lekgotla look at how we will work towards implementing this objective, because early childhood development is very, very critical. The implementation of skills and competencies for a changing world, such as coding, robotics, core skills, focus schools, play-based learning, and reskilling of teachers will provide young people and teachers or educators with skills of a changing world, including the fourth industrial revolution. And the manifesto commits to continue to, I quote, open the doors of learning to all, focusing on quality and innovation to equip young South Africans for the world of tomorrow, and therefore to work with all stakeholders towards a skills revolution. The digital revolution provides us with new opportunities to expand our integrated development framework, with possibilities for new sectors, new opportunities in existing sectors, and new business opportunities and domiciles. And on Eskom, Lekgotla also discussed the current challenges faced by Eskom. Reliable and affordable energy is indeed very critical to household, businesses, and the economy more broadly. And the Lekgotla received briefings from the relevant minister on the challenges facing Eskom and recommendations from the presidential panel. And it requested the minister and government to consult with immediate effect with all stakeholders, particularly trade unions, within the coming weeks on these recommendations and other proposals. And the Lekgotla discussed a wide range of issues when it comes to international relations and cooperation. And these issues relate to international relations and cooperation, its importance in advancing South Africa's socio-economic needs and development. This broadly includes economic diplomacy, global trends, SADC and the AU, peace and security, and stability, as well as the effective use of South Africa's non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council to advance the AU Agenda 2063. And the Lekgotla also spent time discussing the current challenges facing the people of Zimbabwe and DRC. In this regard, the ANC recognizes the importance of peace, security and stability in these countries, particularly the important role of economic development in the lives of ordinary people. To this end, the ANC remains committed to addressing the root causes of conflict, including inequalities and underdevelopment, and promoting inclusive political dialogue. Social cohesion, Lekgotla identified the need for an overarching value system, Ubuntu, and called for a national action plan to combat racism, xenophobia, homophobia, misogynity, and related intolerances. This action plan should promote tolerance at workplaces, in communities, schools, and other education institutions, on the sports fields, the creative sector, and in public and private spaces. And in the words of the late Comrade Chris Hani, we must continue, I quote, to build a nation where everyone will love and respect each other, irrespective of race, religion, or origin. And voter registration, you know, this coming weekend, 26, 27 of January, since the launch of the manifesto, which was so successful, you could see the ANC united, the ANC renewed. ANC members and volunteers and leaders across the country are already in communities and are going door to door to encourage South Africans to be part of renewal, part of unity, and growing our country together. And we therefore say this is the time to go out in numbers to go and register, so that you register to vote, because you can't vote if you are not registered. This includes a special focus on those under 40 years, who are the majority of unregistered. The IEC under 27 and 26 and 7 will be opening all voting stations to allow people to go and check and allow them to register, those who are not registered. Voters are also encouraged to fetch their uncollected IDs from the Department of Home Affairs offices wherever they stay. Young first-time applicants for IDs do not pay for their IDs. We want to remind our communities out there that first-time applicants for IDs do not pay for their IDs, as they can also register in this coming weekend and until the voters roll close with their temporary IDs. We call on all voters to flood the voting stations over this weekend to check whether their addresses are still correct. And we call on all employers, especially those in the retail sector and farms, to enable their workers to go check themselves and go and register and check their status. And then in conclusion, the ANC will continue with its program of renewal and unity, winning back trust, and we urge our people throughout South Africa to renew our mandate when we go to the polls in May this year. Simply said, we are saying this is the time, come elections, vote ANC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade SG, for the statement. We will now allow our colleagues from the media to ask clarity-seeking questions. All members of the panel here in front of us are allowed to answer, but the SG will lead all of us in answers. So, can you get your hands up? Those who want to ask questions, you will just introduce yourself and tell us which media outlet are you coming from. We'll start with you, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7. In that order.
Thanks so much.
Where's our mic? Okay, we'll hear you. We'll hear you. You can proceed. second one.
Okay, my name is Indre. I'm with the SAPC. Secretary General, mine is just on the Reserve Bank. Have you managed to find each other, especially on the issue of the Reserve Bank, because on the nationalization of the Reserve Bank, because sometime last week or during the course of this week, we had different views coming from the President, General, Governor of the Reserve Bank, on whether the ANC will go ahead with its nationalization of the Reserve Bank. And maybe, if I may to ask, the adoption or the inclusion of the resolution on the nationalization of the Reserve Bank at the conference in 2017, was that just a move to appease those who were for a radical socio-economic transformation? Because it seems there is a section in the ANC that is not really for that nationalization. And if maybe there is one who's against nationalization in the panel, what would be the disadvantage to nationalize the bank?
Thank you. The third.
Sure. Now, on the solution, mine is just very simple. When will the president announce the date for the election? And secondly, when can we expect the finalization of the names that we sent to IEC? I know that the ANC submitted the 200 names to the IEC. Then perhaps, if I may find out, have there been names that have been removed from the initial 200 that were submitted at this conference in 2022? Thank you.
Number 4.
Mine is more of a state capture issue, and we'd like a response directly from you as the CEO of the ANC and not Mr. Ward. SG, what do you make of Minister Nombulo Mukonyane's letter? She says through her lawyer today, where she never inserted whether she is denying the allegations made about her by Angelo Agrizi of the bride from Musasa. What do you make of that statement of hers? Not saying whether she's guilty or not. And also, what's the role of pundits in ANC ranks? Do you as national supply food at your Zangoba rally or the rally that you did have in Durban of people who come to the rallies? Was she soliciting or trying to get these funds from Musasa for the work of the ANC or for her own personal gain? And then the last question is, what process or steps do you then take since you say you are seeing these allegations which are rather damning that the state captain is inquiry? What do you then do to those who are implicated by Angelo Agrizi, including Vincent Smith, who's resigned or stepped aside from all committees to chair in the National Assembly? Thank you.
Number 5.
Number 5, my name is Natasha Piri from Channel Television. SG, are you not concerned, or is the ANC not concerned that Agrizi's testimony and inquiry might affect the party's performance at the polls? Thank you.
Number 6.
Two questions to the ANC.
Two questions to the Secretary General. Your sentence, South African Reserve Bank is flexible monetary policy regime without sacrificing price stability. In short, can this be interpreted as saying the ANC will nationalize South African Reserve Bank? My
The last one, number 7.
Natasha from the Business Day. I have 2 questions. The one is on Eskom. Can you be more specific, to add to my colleague's question, about the recommendations? Do they include the potential breaking up of Eskom, or do they include retrenchments? And the second question is around the Reserve Bank as well. Are there plans to put forward the attempt to nationalize the Reserve Bank in Parliament, to start the process there? And the second question is around the mandate of the bank, which is very separate from ownership. The governor of the Reserve Bank told us last week that the constitutional mandate of the bank is already to take into account issues like employment creation and economic growth. What exactly is the ANC saying? Are you wanting to amend the constitution to change that? Can you please clarify that so we can understand exactly what you mean when it's already part of the mandate of the Reserve Bank to take into account employment creation and economic growth? Thank you.
The last one? Yeah.
Zondo from Eyewitness News. My question has to do with the ANC list and whether it includes people like Lekgotla and those who have been implicated in the state tax inquiry and other proceedings. My other question has to do with presumably earlier you said was asking a question on purposely and you were going to investigate these allegations against them. Are you trying to distinguish the ANC members from the party itself? Are they different? When a minister is regarding is corrupt, aren't they not part of the ANC? Are they acting in what capacity were you saying that? Can you please explain?
Sorry, can I have an add-on?
Yes.
Thank you. CD from Newspaper. Just a little based on what Colin is asking. Is the ANC going to refer the Integrity Committee to look into these members? Because that is not the issue of guilty findings, the issue of the impact of people's actions on the party. And there are questions about particular members. Will those members be looked at and maybe asked to step aside as you head into the elections? And then my second question also to the SG. You've kind of spoken many times, alluded, that you might go to state capture to tell many tales. And to speak about how many sides of stories must be told. What have been your thoughts thus far? Have you maybe approached them already? When can we as South Africans expect to hear from you about what you understand about state capture, Mr. MAgashule?
No, thank you very much, colleagues. We will now allow the leadership to respond to questions that you have asked. And then immediately after that, we'll allow you to go to your newsrooms to inform the public on the wonderful work that you are doing. Thank you.
So we get one round, only one.
Yeah, thank you, SG.
Well, I'm the Secretary General, so I can direct the panel to respond. That's what I should do, so that you see that the ANC leadership as a collective is one on any points you have actually asked. Because I'm sure you're looking for where do we differ? We don't differ. Because they are clear conference resolutions. And we are marching on, we are moving on. We've implemented the national conference resolutions. And all those conference resolutions include whether it's the expropriation of land, whether it's the nationalization of the Reserve Bank. I think we are talking very clear about the Reserve Bank here. I don't know what you understand with public ownership. Independence, there is a clear distinction between independence and ownership. Ownership will be ownership by public. You call it nationalization. That's the resolution of conference. It is very, very clear. So we'll be implementing that resolution. Let me allow comrades to respond. I'll come back because the date of election will be decided and set by the president. It's the prerogative of the president. Whenever the president is ready, he will actually announce that date, because the president is the president of South Africa, whilst he's the leader of the ANC. I think I will give other questions to the panel here, so that we show you that we are a collective leadership. Comrade,
But as you said, we directed it to you.
I'll come back.
Okay.
There's nothing directed to me. It's a broader question. Come. Don't personalize this matter.
It's very good, SG. I like what they say. And you say they must not personalize the issue. I fully agree with you. I want to respond to the issue of Zimbabwe, which is a question that was asked. Yes, of course, in terms of sanctions against Zimbabwe, for those who've been on the agenda and on what South Africa has been doing in as far as Zimbabwe is concerned, is as old as when we had a facilitation team that was in Zimbabwe, that was requested to travel from the US to the UK to the EU finally, where we have been calling for the lifting of the sanctions in Zimbabwe. And actually we thought that after the elections, despite the challenges that came immediately after that with the deaths of some people, we thought that those that had imposed the sanctions on Zimbabwe would look at Zimbabwe differently, particularly because SADC and the AU itself had indicated and had sent people to monitor the elections, including the African National Congress. However, the issue of sanctions, they were imposed by those who imposed them. We will continue to engage with them to say if we want Zimbabwe to really recover, it's a bigger and fuller package, not just a package of what South Africa is developing, working together with other government departments. It's also about how the Western countries in particular who impose those sanctions respond to our request. The second issue you raise is whether we are concerned about the situation. We've repeated this over and over again to say that Zimbabwe is our neighbor, and if Zimbabwe is our neighbor, when the house is burning next door, you don't fold your hands and your arms and you say, it's got nothing to do with me. In fact, when the economy of Zimbabwe is not operating very well, it has an impact on the economy of South Africa first and foremost. It's also got an impact on businesses which are not run by government, but businesses, South African business